Have you guys all seen the Capcom Cup group stages? This is what the groups are looking like. Obviously, a bunch of really strong players spread out throughout the whole thing. The big problem, and you guys may be posting Fs in the chat already, is Group F. Particularly funny because it's right next to G, which a lot of people like. There's good players in Group G, don't get me wrong, but man, there's like probably like 3 groups that are much easier looking. The Group F is like by far the hardest. I think it's pretty brutal. Like the 2 EVO finalists. If you're gonna make a top 5 in the world list, most people would put Mena and Angry Bird in that top 5. And also they'd probably put Kakadu, which is really funny because he's not even in Capcom Cup. He has to go through the LCQ, which we'll get to later. So you're probably wondering like why, how could this happen? Like how is it that Group F looks so disastrous? The thing you have to understand about Capcom Cup this year, and it's been talked about a lot, the purpose of Capcom Cup this year is not to find the best players in the world. The goal was to grab a bunch of people from all over the world and all over the regions and get the best players from each region in the world, from as many different places as they can. If like you're looking at a list of the top 48 best players in the world, you know, like 20 of them or 25 of them might be from Japan or something, right? But like Japan gets 2 spots. It also means though that the way the qualification works, every single person who qualifies for Capcom Cup is even in the eyes of this system, outside of the people who qualify via offline events, because all of them are champions. They all won the qualifier within their region, right? In previous years, the way they would do it is they would have a point system. Sometimes there's auto qualifiers, like you would win a super premiere or like winning a premiere would qualify you, but it still was seeded based on points. In this kind of a format, you don't have like that sort of breakdown because all the regions in the eyes of this system are even unless you arbitrarily decide that they have different power levels or something. You can't just be like, well, you won in Japan and Japan's good, so you're the first seed. And you won in here and this place is not that good, so you're this seed. Like, you know, they can't do it like that. A random draw, like a lottery like this, is something that you kind of need to do if you're going to do a format this way. You can try to split up regions and stuff, or you can try to make it so that the 2 people qualified from the same place are not playing against each other. But even that didn't happen, actually. Mena and Kaba in the same group. Yeah, it is weird that the 2 players from Africa ended up in the same group also, because you would think you'd do your best to avoid that, but there you are. Could they have more aggressively tried to do something about it? Maybe, but like with how the format is, this is kind of what they have to do. And they just have to hope that like it ends up in a way that makes sense and not like this, basically. But Capcom Cup this year is just very confusing. It feels confused in what the purpose of this event is to me. Obviously, they're not trying to do like a super competitive tour where like you have to grind really hard and you have to go to a ton of events and you have to be able to travel and we're gonna find the best player in the world competitively by doing that. That's what they used to do. So instead, I'm like, okay, their goal clearly must be to advertise to all these places in the world, to market all these players from all over the world and like show all these different regions and stuff, which is dope. It's a big marketing event. They're giving away $2 million in prizing. Surely there must be a huge announcement. However, I don't know if you guys saw, but they already announced, we'll be focusing on the competition at hand. We'd like to provide advance notice that there won't be any new gameplay or content reveals at Capcom Cup X. So now I'm just confused. You're not going to use the $2 million and like all the eyeballs because of that to announce new stuff. But also because the format is like this, it's not about finding the best player in the world, right? So it's just really weird. I just don't get it. Honestly, I really hope that in the future, they pick which direction they want to go in a little bit more, or whatever they do makes a little bit more sense. Because my guess is they know that more people want offline events. It's the thing that people want to watch the most. It's the thing that makes the most sense competitively. Offline qualifiers that enable international competition naturally create more interesting storylines. The problem with doing online events only so much is that like how many of you have watched a TNS or a can opener or whatever? When you watch the CPT, doesn't it feel like you're just watching another can opener or TNS? Without offline international competition to break it up, you're watching essentially the same matches between the same people in the same regions over and over and over and over. I don't mind the idea of grabbing players from all kinds of regions all over the world. I think it's dope. But I think that there should be a path for both. Like 1 online qual per region and then having way more offline stuff would be cool to me. 44 slots from online is too much. One thing that you saw a lot, in fact, someone just typed it a little while ago, was like the professional players would qualify for Capcom Cup because they have a sponsor and they can like travel around. With this year's CPT, do you really want to sponsor a professional Street Fighter player when they have 2 chances to make it into Capcom Cup in their region? Like imagine paying for a year's salary and hoping they make it into Capcom Cup when the format is really difficult. Like Mena almost didn't qualify. And then they do qualify and you're like, oh my God, awesome. And then this is their group in the finals. You're like, oh, It's like the opposite of what you want. I think it's a little too punishing for people who are professionals. And it's particularly punishing for the strongest regions. Qualifying in that region is a nightmare. It sucks. It's really terrible. How many of you even knew about all of the qualifiers happening? It's like very hard to follow everything, right? Because people were so disconnected from the tour, like they were not paying attention. Nobody even knew when the offline was happening. The fact that Group F exists is going to be exciting, but also a little sad. The other thing is, I don't know if you guys have looked at the LCQ brackets. It's not a joke. This is the projected top 16 of the LCQ. Can't lie. If I had to pick one of these groups, there's probably like 1 or 2 groups that look harder than this, maybe. Maybe. In top 16 projected, Tokido Bonchan, Punk Yamaguchi, Kakadu Goichi, Moke Nemo, Lord Venom, Higuchi, Daigo, Aqua, Sako, Mizuha, and Problem X Ryusei. This is the projected top 16. Only one of these people make it through. It's pretty messed up too because, again, if you're thinking about top 10 players in the world for Capcom Cup or whatever, I think a lot of people in like the top 10 players of the world would put Kakadu. And I think a lot of people might put Moke, and neither of them are qualified for Capcom Cup. Punk is in that spot too. It's the nature of how the qualification has been for this event. I mean, I've been talking about it all year. Everybody's been talking about it all year. I would actually not have any complaints. Like, we could have this death group and everything if this didn't exist. But yeah, I don't know. I hope that they shift the format a bit in the future. The event's gonna be cool, and like it's gonna be fun to watch high level Street Fighter, and like people are gonna be interested in it and stuff. But like it definitely does kind of sting when this is like the big payoff at the end of the year, and like you have these asterisks on stuff. I don't know, man. That shit is tough. Safe's here. Safe really made me laugh. Did you see Safe's tweet? He tweeted this image, like the whoosh image, and it's him in Group G instead of Group F. Honestly, I think that group in general has a lot of strong players. It's just, it's sitting right next to F, so it doesn't look like shit compared to that, you know? I think if you ask any of the players there which group they'd rather be in, G or F, they're gonna tell you G. If Capcom Cup ends and they're like, hope you enjoyed it, and then there's no balance patch, and then we have to wait for Akuma, some people are gonna actually have mental breakdowns. You understand that? They'll survive, I mean, but at what our cost? At like what cost to me? I'm booting up 2B immediately. I'm gonna be like, well, listen. Gotch-kun watching the group draw. He's trying to see which group he's gonna be. He could have ended up in Group F. Yeah, you see it. You see his face. He's going through. He's like, oh no, man, what's happening? It's just 2 groups left at this point. There's only 2.
Oh, this is Gotcha-kun. Okay.
The way he stands up. The way he stands up, dude. Oh, it gets me every time. You can't even hear him because the mic just explodes. Like he's screaming so loud that the mic is like just exploding.